Hi, this is Chris Cook. First of all, I want to welcome everyone and thank you for attending today's webinar. First of all, just one housekeeping note. We will make the slides available from today's webinar. They'll be available afterwards, and so they'll be available for you to download from our website. So for those of you who do want a copy of the slides, they'll be available. So today we're going to speak to personalization and how APIs and web services enable personalization. And on today's webinar, for those of you who don't know about personalization, we're going to define it and how it's used today by enterprises as part of their marketing, and how they use APIs and web services to enable it. My name is Chris Cook, and I work in sales and business development for SOA Software. First thing I want to do is introduce your presenters today. The first of those is Laura Heritage, who's also with SOA Software. She's the Director of API Strategy. And Laura is very distinguished. Before SOA Software, she was with IBM and was part of their API management practices there as well. And she, along with Tom Klein, who's the CEO of Digital Scientists, are going to talk to you about personalization and, again, about how APIs and web services enable all this to happen. So let me move on to a little bit about the two companies, a little bit about SOA Software. We're a market leader in API management and SOA governance. We count about 350 of the Fortune 1000 who use our product set, and we're a leader in both Gartner and Forrester. And if you want to read more about that, both of those reports are available from our website, along with many of our data sheets and collateral. Digital Scientists is a partner of ours. They're a digital strategy and innovation firm. They work with a number of companies in defining their digital presence and in the use of leveraging technology to expand their market presence. And they have a number of large and prestigious nameplates around the country that they've helped as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Laura and to Tom to walk you through the webinar.
Great. Thank you, Chris. Can you
I think
can you see what is personalization? Can you give me
Key presenter, Tom. There you go.
There I am. Okay. Okay. So what is personalization? And yeah, my name is Tom Klein, and this is actually a picture of when you talk about personalization today, a lot of times people think about, what we're not talking about here is insert name here, right? So here's some examples because we think it's important to get this across here. It's actually appearing almost everywhere. That really means communicate the smartest thing at any moment in time. And when we say the smartest thing, each of those sort of matters intensely. So it's it's around how you communicate with your customer. It's what is the smartest thing, and what do we mean by moment in time? There are really three main drivers that we're talking about here. First is context. So in other words, when you think about today and you experience it on a trip, in a store, wherever you go, there's the essentially, where are you, right? And the what, the where, the when, the how. Where are you on a map? What time is it, right? So what do we think that you're doing? Next is everything there is, a customer might know about you as an individual. Who are you? Are you part of a family? Why are you where you are, right? So again, these are major drivers of personalization. Why are you at the airport? Are you in the parking lot, or are you getting on the flight, or are you already in your seat, right? So all of those are different moments in time where personalization represents an opportunity. Next is the learning piece. So the other driver is, in other words, what have we learned about what works and what doesn't? So if I deliver a message to you when you're in the parking lot before you walk into Target, is that better than when you walk in the door, or versus if you're, standing at the cash register? All of those things about learning what works and what doesn't represent sort of one of the drivers of personalization. Okay, so, and I've got some examples because I think seeing is believing. So you're seeing this increasingly when you walk into the store. Pink is part of Victoria's Secret. You might see things that you've done online in the store. So your love list in this example is basically like your favorites. You've been shopping online, which is what many people do, and then they show up in a retail location, and lo and behold, it's important to be able to connect those two. Google Now, right? Those little notifications that pop up that say, traffic is heavy. That's what we're talking about when we talk about personalization. So those things that are kind of predicting your drive. Simple things like, hey, out of the millions of people that are on Twitter, these are the ones that we think might be interesting for you to know, right? So more personalization around content based on your behavior, based on who you follow, based on the articles you've read. I'm going to personalize your experience. Fab is an example. I have hundreds of thousands or millions of products. I have to personalize it based on, in other words, when I send out an email, it's not one size fits all. There's one size for you based on your behavior, your purchases, and your preferences. Business Insider, same thing. Whether it's an email, any digital touch point represents an opportunity to personalize the experience. And the whole point here is a personalized experience is the one that's going to win, right? In other words, it's the key to owning the customer. No one wants to be spoken to like they're a stranger every time they walk in the door. So the point here is, this is our Office Depot example. If you walk in, it might be, don't forget this item from your buy later list. Little handy things that just show up of, you've been going to the grocery store, same one for 10 years. It would be nice if they just said, these are the things you normally buy, right? And the way that happens is, guess what? APIs, they make it happen. So being able to look dynamically and say, I know who you are, I know where you are, I can make some assumptions about what you're trying to accomplish, and I also might know something about the context. In other words, I know you're in a particular location, where they sell, where they have inventory, and so forth. So in other words, there's a lot that happens dynamically behind the scenes to create an entirely different experience and really differentiate yourself against your competitors. All right? I think this is where I'm gonna hand it off to. I'll keep going. I've got a couple other things to say here. Why is this important? Because I think a lot of times, folks want to say, so what's going on out there from an industry perspective is that there's a name for this, right? And the name is sort of emerging. It's not really clear, but from Forrester, they refer to it as a contextual marketing engine. So their point is that to achieve sustainable competitive advantage, you must deliver self-perpetuating cycles of real-time, two-way, insight-driven interactions with individual customers. In other words, you've got to come up with something smart to say every time you interact with your customer, right? Yes, there's a name for it. And oh, by the way, it's a way to create a really engaging, environment for every customer interaction. It is not one size fits all. that era is dead. And the point is, and if you can differentiate with your internal data, external data, you can grab APIs that change the experience, you can deliver unprecedented levels of customer engagement, sell more stuff, and deliver better product experiences before the purchase, during the purchase, and even after the purchase, right? So this is how do you rethink everything? And here's a little example of how contextual marketing engines work, right? Because it's easy to say, here's this big new category of what does personalization look like. Now, if I really want to have, when we think about it, and a highly individualized kind of conversation with my customer, you know, wherever they are, whatever they're doing, here's a way to sort of think about it. First of all, let's develop a segment, a user segment that says something simple like, I've come to the Office Depot in the last 30 days and I'm in a particular location, right? And, you know, I might say, you know, unlike most other marketing, this is a trigger-based marketing. In other words, it's not, I'm going to create one version and send it to everybody. It is, I'm going to create a segment, and then based on the behavior of a person in that segment, I'm going to generate a trigger. And this trigger might be, if I visit a particular location, I might say, this, you know, thanks for stopping by. The item you saved, you know, I'm going to go look in your saved list or your, what you've recently looked at, right? And say, and generate a promotion on that item. Okay. And then when the message is opened, in this example, if something's open, in other words, I've got something that you've saved on an e-commerce site. When you walk into my location, you're in my location. I mean, I'm really ready to sell. What I want to be able to do is deliver a message that's highly relevant, based on your context, for you, right? Personalized for you. And, you know, and I tell you what, when you do this, it works, right? So the conversion rates are off the charts, higher than your normal conversion rate and all, you know, where all your other marketing dollars go. So here's the picture of a segment. In other words, you know, which touch points should we target? You know, so what's great about contextual marketing engines is it lets you rethink how digital marketing works, like it's a big optimization problem, if you will. So in other words, every time a prospect or a customer interacts with you digitally, you are monitoring that, right? In the same way that if they walked into the store and walked over to the shoe department, like, oh, it looks like they're interested in shoes. In the same way, when they click through on a promotion, you know, that they might see in Facebook or content on your website, whatever it is, you're keeping track of it. Okay, so the idea is figuring out which touch points you want to target, and then, you know, this is the same optimization strategy that's present in, you know, in Google's AdWords and pay-per-click ads, is that you're really creating all these different personalization scenarios, and you will learn, right? You're really running your own, if you will, ad network that's based on all of your assets, whether they're, you know, digital marketing assets that you rent or digital marketing assets that you own, like physical locations. Really, any digital touch point represents an opportunity to plug into this optimization engine, okay? That's what contextual marketing is all about. And, you know, the key here is the APIs that power them. They're the secret for creating that conversation that will let you win in the marketplace. Now, let me hand it over to Laura, who will talk about what is an API.
All right. Thanks, Tom. You know, half the people on the call are going to be like, wow, you know, I know what an API is, right? I've heard this before. But, you know, there are some people on this call that might be from a marketing organization who aren't very technically savvy, and I really want to reach those people as well. And even those that say, yeah, I know what an API is, I want to switch that definition on you just a little bit. So what is an API? Well, I'm going to tell you what it's not first. It's not our father's API. I always say that because my dad's a computer scientist as well, and it's really not that. Our father's API stood for Application Programming Interface. It's something that connects. It was something that connects one technical system to another technical system in a company, and the only person that understood that API or how that actually works with some techie guy in some remote location because they're not cool enough to have an office downtown, okay? This is not the case anymore. When we're talking about APIs in this context, in this space, today an API means a new business channel. It is a revenue stream. It is your digital business. It is what makes personalization possible, as Tom was saying. It should be easily understandable and digestible by even the slightest techie-savvy person, right? And this is because you want to make it so that connecting new business partners is faster, easier, and they have a better experience than what your competitors can give. Okay, and so that's what an API has to represent. That experience of consuming that API should be so that your partners don't have to go and engage that techie person in room 304 in some offsite building, right, to see and try out if it's right for their business. They should be able to look at it, read it, digest it, and even play with it to see, you know what, this is gonna help me. This is gonna, you know, help my business. I want to connect to this, and then they engage the techie persons to do the real heavy lifting. But, you know, when you think of, after this call, when you think of APIs, you really need to think of dollar signs, okay? So APIs represent a key business investment for both your strategic and your operational objectives. The APIs you need to start transforming your business today already exist in your enterprise somewhere. They might be tied up in various data sources. They may be tied up in various web services, especially if your company has been embarking on a SOA strategy or even just a services strategy. These assets need to be found and managed as business assets with dollar amounts assigned to them. They're going to be key for your digital business as you move forward for marketing organizations and new revenue channels. They will become the building blocks for what you build your new digital business on. And they're going to make it possible to give that same personalized consumer experience across all of your channels and your partners' channels. All right, because you want that experience is what really, as Tom was saying, what really drives the business, what drives consumers, okay? And you need, you know, one thing I want to put here is, you know, IT organizations have known, especially those embarking on SOA, have known how important it is to be organized and categorize and govern the services that they've built. But there just hasn't been, you know, because I've been in the SOA world for years, since, you know, 2006 with the first few SOA registries that come out, and it was always hard to get the business to see the value of really categorizing and managing these web services as business assets until now. Okay, so your IT organizations are on board and ready and waiting for you to back them on this and help really drive your business. And I really think the really change in the mindset is because, you know, the advent of mobile and Internet of Things and being able to connect really rapidly and you know, pioneers in the space have really allowed us to put that dollar sign on these technical assets to make them new revenue channels. And that it really allows, what has happened is really allowed you to really see how, you know, having these assets allows you to get to this personalization experience. So help out your IT organizations, support them in getting organized with their internal services, because those are the things that you're going to be able to need and understand to transform. And at the end of this webinar, when you hear the APIs, don't think of, oh, that's some techie thing in the back room. When somebody is talking about an API, you got to think about, can I make money from that API type of experience. So let's move on. Okay, hold on one second. So I want to take a look at a couple of examples of companies that aren't, what I'm going to say, born in the mobile space, right, or haven't been, you know, born in the last, you know, couple years where their API is at their base from the beginning. But these companies really are outside of the box, okay, and to get you thinking that it's not just retail, it's not just banking, it's not, it's not just these things that we hear about all the time in the API space, okay. These are real enterprise companies that are moving forward in a digital world. All right, so the first one here is near and dear to my heart. Did you know that we have to increase our food production by 60% in order to feed the growing population by 2050? That's only 36 years away. John Deere, I'm from a family of farmers, and that's my daughter up in Minnesota here, sitting on that John Deere tractor. But John Deere is one of these companies taking on this challenge. Okay, and they're taking it on for obvious reasons, and other implements are doing the same thing, because the social need for the increase in production, but also because of the profit margins they can get by working with these farmers. Now, when you think of a John Deere or another implements like Case or something, what do you think of, right? You're thinking, I bet you're thinking, well, a tractor, plow, a combine, fertilization spreaders. I mean, depending on how much you know about farming, you're going through all the mechanical, the heavy machine, things, right? The physical things. But did you know that these machines are actually very large computers decked out with GPS, telemetry, and all sorts of sensors to enable farmers to increase their yield? It's really amazing. I mean, I go back home to where our farms are, and I talk to my cousins that are still running the farm, and you have to be incredibly technical savvy to be a farmer today. You can't just have a traditional tractor that doesn't have these sensors. You just won't make it. You need all of this technology and all of this information. So they have information from these sensors are combined with all sorts of historical and real-time data regarding weather, soil conditions, crop features, and many others to help farmers really make a personalized plan, like, ahead of time, and then as they are plowing or, planting or combining, whatever they're doing, they're always in touch, everything. They've got, what my cousins, they have during the planting and harvesting seasons, and whenever they have a lot of tractors out in the fields, they have a lot of acres, they actually go to Verizon, spin up hotspots in each one of these tractors so they could be directly connected to every tractor in the field or machinery in the field at that particular time, and all of that data is up in the cloud. It's absolutely positively amazing and mind-blowing. So here's an example of what's going on there. In the fall, you've got the combines. They've got, as they're going, there's tons of sensors. They're collecting all of this data, okay? This data is going up into the cloud somewhere, okay? And they're using this real time, but they're also capturing it to understand, to optimize for the previous years. They've got all sorts of John Deere and the implements have applications to help them with the data and analyze the usage. But they've got all sorts of partners that plug into that data so that you can sit there and plan, almost by yard, what type of seed, what type of fertilizer that you want to have happen next year in order to optimize your yield. It's incredibly important. So during the fall, they gather that information. During the winter, they don't get to sit and do nothing during the winter. They are planning out, analyzing all the data from what they collected in the fall harvest, making a new plan, and that plan is loaded up into the cloud. And then when the tractors go out in the spring to plant, it gets loaded down with all the information that they need and the right amount of seed and the right type of seed, and everything is dropped in that particular part of the field. It's absolutely amazing, and it helps farmers increase their yields. My cousins say that it's been absolutely phenomenal, and this is the key to their success and why they're able to grow their farms, is because their investment in technology. And while other smaller farmers who didn't embrace the technology haven't fared so well. So it's incredibly important to the farmers. It's also incredibly important to John Deere. This creates personalized experience for each individual farmer, okay? And, you know, talking with my cousins and my family, when a farmer chooses, it used to be like you could go out and buy a tractor from Case or a tractor from John Deere and different implements to attach to them, and everything would run. But now, because of all the technology and the partner ecosystems these implements give, the farmers typically, if they're a John Deere farm, they stick with all John Deere. If they're a Case farm, they stick with all Case equipment. So it's very important for each of these implements to create that personalized experience and give the value add. And in order to do this, John Deere and implement companies have to open up. They have to be able to build themselves a platform of inputs and outputs to drive that ecosystem, to drive that personalization for that farmer to increase their yield. I mean, connecting to things like Monsanto and Pioneer and all those different business partners to be able to share that data. And the farmer has to have control over the data of who gets to have what and when and why. Very, very interesting case of a company that started off with, you know, just like mechanical machine technology moving into this digital space. So any company can do it across any industry. Let's start with another company in this case. Now, this is a different type of business. It's the business of the travel business, which is a $1 trillion industry. And that did you know that 20% of travel and entertainment expenses fall outside of company policy? 20%. And so companies really need to get a handle on that, and that's something that Concur does for a company. So hold on a second. Concur enables the business to manage everything from travel bookings to expense and compliance and requirements. Their motto is that it's all about automation, managing expenses anytime, anywhere, and get a visibility into spend. Now, Concur was established in 1993 when the internet was just starting out. It has a different beginning than John Deere. Its business was based off of technology to begin with, but they still needed to transform with APIs to enable faster integration with business partners. You see, Concur decided to provide the ultimate experience for travel and business owners. To do that, they needed to establish themselves as a platform, similar to how Amazon has established itself to themselves to early as a complete platform from a shopping experience. Concur is doing that from a business travel experience. Let me give you a couple of examples here of how they're doing that. Okay, so Concur is the so Concur is the platform, right? So everything before you start, before you begin. Okay, so this is great. One of the things that they integrate with when you're about to travel is CIBT visas. I don't know if anybody out there has tried to get a visa going to work in China or Brazil or what have you, but it is a difficult process trying to keep that straight. Concur helps you simplify that, right? They integrate through the APIs with the CIBT visa, and they simplify that process, right? They want that the traveler, right, the employee that's traveling, to have that great travel experience, making it easy for them to book and register travel. If you've got to go to CIBT to create a visa, no problem. We'll help you out because we opened up ourselves as a platform to allow CIBT visa to plug into us to give you that personalized travel experience. It's a wonderful capability. The next thing Concur allows you to do, because they are that open platform, is they provide platform of tools to assist you while you're on the road. Do you need to use Park and Fly and keep your receipts from a Park and Fly? Do you want to book a taxi with Uber, or do you need to do Taxi Magic, or many others? It's all hooked into your Concur. Your Concur, sorry, I always say Concur. I pronounce it wrong sometimes, but it's a one-stop experience for that business traveler. It makes it easy for them. It simplifies their business travel instead of trying to juggle all and organize this themselves. The next thing that Concur also provides is when the traveler gets home, right, and you got to deal with your expense reports and all that kind of stuff that you hate doing, Concur makes that easier for you too, being able to load e-receipts for travel and automation of business travelers' payroll compliance for the employer. So not only does it make it easier for the business traveler and personalized to their liking, but it also helps the employer, right, being able to analyze and process these receipts and make sure that the employee is staying within process. And the only way Concur is able to do this is because they are an open platform with inputs and outputs to create this rich ecosystem to provide that ultimate personalized business travel experience. And so that, I hope that hits home that, being an open company with APIs to allow you to connect with business partners faster than you ever thought before can really change your business and provide that personalized experience that your consumers, your customers, depending on, no matter who your customers is, if it's really a partner or if it really is that end user consumer experience. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to Tom to talk, give a couple more case studies.
All right. Thank you, Laura.
One thing I do want to, one thing I do, if you do have any questions, go ahead and type them into the chat, and we'll get to those at the end of the presentation.
Great. All right. I'm going to talk to you about Rately. Rately is I'm going to talk about sort of a special program that's going on. Right, our topic here is personalization, and this is a great example of the power of context and the ability to create a more personalized experience. And Rately is an application that's focused on delivering the best shopping experience across stores. And what you see here is there's a program with the city of Alpharetta north of Atlanta. It's ongoing now. That's based on iBeacons or proximity sensors. And so what you're seeing here is everybody's familiar with the punch card that's used for, essentially you visit a coffee shop, 10 times and you get a free cup of coffee, or you visit your burrito place 10 times and you get a free burrito. So what Rately is doing is essentially reinventing that kind of a program and using both proximity sensors and personalization to really change it up, all right? And so here's a little bit of an overview of the program. The city of Alpharetta has paid for beacons. They're very small and they plug in to be placed in retailers. And so what happens is when a shopper, the whole point of the program is to essentially get people out and about and shopping in person in Alpharetta. It's a small town. And what they want to have happen is, as you're shopping, you essentially, the proximity sensor is essentially sniffed out by the application that's on your phone, right? And based on your number of visits, you generate either a particular reward, all right? And so this instance, this is a picture of Karen's Fabrics. Karen sells, if you wanted a custom pillow or draperies, Karen's is the place to go on Main Street in Alpharetta. And so for most retailers, it's a very difficult program to kind of manage. It's not advertising. What they really want to do is to reward the frequent shopper, all right? And so when someone visits and and they get a notification on their phone if they hit a reward level or just when they walk in the door, right? Again, we're thinking about personalization means communicate the smartest thing at any moment in time. And so if I walk into Karen's, it's very nice to be able to say, hey, I recognize that you visited, or this is saying so there's a place to mark your visit, but also there's an opportunity for Karen to merchandise very specific items. In other words, I know you're a frequent shopper, and oh, by the way, I now have an opportunity in a physical location to merchandise what's new, what I think you might like, what's for sale, really anything, okay? So the mobile device really begins to serve as a way to navigate the world, if you will, okay? And so that's all about personalization, because as with almost every store, whether it's big or small, you don't know what's new, you don't know what's on sale. It's really, in the retail example, they make you do all the work, right? And now, back on the redemption of the reward, what this does is give Karen a way to essentially say, after a certain number of visits, I can, essentially get a reward. And again, I'm promoting return visits and repeat shopping. Now, it's a combination of what is maybe one of the oldest retail tactics, right? It's not advertising. It's rewards for a repeat shopper, but at the same time, it's wrapping it in a great deal of personalization, and the personalization is about not only the store and who you are and what you might like, but also the context, right? So the context is this store at this time in this location. Now, the content for each user is personalized through a series of background API calls. The reality is for mobile applications, mobile experiences, in-store applications, none of it would be possible without a whole series of API calls, right? So, and the API call is really just saying, what you're really getting in a mobile application is a user experience, and the cloud is where all of your data lie. And what the APIs do is let you kind of deliver a just-in-time experience based on a trigger, some specific behavior, or some preference that's been, monitored or recorded about you. So in this example, and this is a free app. It's free for the merchants, and it's also free for consumers. So I would suggest you check it out. But everything is filtered by search terms. As you visit, it keeps track of your recent items, keeps track of your recent stores, and this is just sort of a whole series of APIs that are pulled together to deliver a very specific shopping experience. So the question is, we've talked about really some incredible examples. When you think about John Deere reinventing itself as really like a whole farming experience, right? Not just here's a tractor, right, that somebody drives around. I'm really kind of moving forward into owning the experience, if you will. And so in the same way that Concur is focused on the travel experience, Greatly in a small way is focused on the shopping experience. APIs let you kind of extend your reach. And so let's talk about how we get started and how we kind of, work with clients in this domain. So there's I'll start and go through sort of a standard digital innovation process, but it maps very well to, what are the API components or elements of it. So here's just a nice digital innovation process, and it's what we work through with our clients every day. So innovation and digital strategy are difficult for most clients, and honestly, we spend a lot of time straddling IT, the business unit, marketing, and maybe there's someone who's in charge of innovation, right? And our challenge and what we're actually looking to do in this webinar is really highlight the fact that it's important that these concepts get cross-pollinated, because otherwise you can't create the farming, experience if you don't get the person in charge of the product and the person in charge of IT, to kind of connect to each other. So our first step is understanding what the concept is, and there's a lot of work to figure out. What does it mean for your business to kind of own the experience? And then once you do that, what is the business model and the go-to-market approach that will win? When I say go-to-market approach, it's basically how will you actually, if I used to sell tractors and now I sell the farming experience, I might need a different sales force. I might need a different approach to marketing. I might need to reposition my company. All of those are opportunities to kind of say, I need to reinvent myself if I'm going to extend my basically, what I say that I'm actually able to deliver to my customers. Next comes the architecture. So what is the user experience and how does the digital product work in conjunction with existing capabilities? And what this usually means is, what I've found talking to CMOs across the country is invariably, the IT function has a lot of services, or they've been working at it. As Laura has said, since the middle, 2005, IT departments have been generating services just to get their job done, right, to operate, right? So if I said, I need to know, every price, where we sell everything, where all price variations, what my menu is, whatever it is, right? So invariably there are internal capabilities around services that already exist, functionality that's been built, right? So the architecture piece is how do I essentially leverage existing capabilities around functionality and content, but importantly, now how do I go outside of the organization and identify who has it, where do I need it? I need, for example, I was talking to someone about, I need gas prices and say, yes, we can get those, right? I need to pull those in and I need to do something with gas prices. So what we do in the architect phase is design what is the customer experience going to be and also design where do all the data and functionality come from so that we can create a complete solution. Only then are we actually ready to build something, right? So the architecture piece is quite important. And so it's in the build phase where we build, right? And this is what a lot of people sort of focus on, right? And it's very easy, and this is where a lot of the time goes. But if you haven't architected the solution correctly, the building can be quite a challenge. And then ultimately there's a management piece, right? So how do I create, if I'm going to move from as an organization from, I sell tractors to I sell the farming experience, I might have a different operating model. I might have different people. I might have a different roadmap about capabilities I'm going to add, right, over time. So that management piece is critical for essentially saying it's the end. It's at the end of this process, but the reality is it's really the starting line, right? You're transforming your business, and this represents the starting line for, this is the new world that you're going to get into. And as Laura said, it's where you begin to make the money, right? And in a new way, and selling a new combination of products and services, perhaps that you've never sold before, all right? So what I'd like to do is I'm going to hand it over to Laura, who's going to talk about, the digital platform enablers and a way to think about the API component of digital innovation, if you will.
All right, thanks, Tom. So throughout the process, Tom defines there's digital platform enablers to help make that process run more smoothly. For example, in the concept phase, when you're trying to think of things that you can build and how to transform, you can really, you need to have a tool to enable you to identify new or existing APIs, and you can do this by leveraging an API catalog, and we'll talk a little bit more about what that entails later, and that's usually part of, your digital platform's API management components or capability. During the strategy phase, as you're establishing new business models around the APIs, and also that you have the need to, as you're defining that business strategy around the APIs, there's many things you got to do. What's the monetization model, if there is any? I could go on forever about different monetization models. Establishing the different marketing and socialization capabilities. Defining terms of use and legal conditions for those APIs. Your API management systems developer portal should be able to help you realize the things that you've defined into an actionable automated system, so that when you have a partner that will come on and it'll streamline the onboarding of your partners, streamline the acceptance of the legal conditions, streamline the monetization aspects of that. So basically your API management system should be able to take that strategy that you've defined around your business model around your marketing and realize that, okay? Going down to the architect level, you want to be able to define that API, design the API and define the security and policies requirements around that API. What are the security policies? Are you going to be using OAuth? Are you going to use basic auth, mutual SSL authentication? What are your compliance policies around who get to see what type of information and so forth? So you've defined all that, but now you need to realize that. And part of your digital platform and your API management solution, it should be a security component that allows you to take these policies in a written form and turn them into an actionable form that is actually enforced by the runtime. During the build phase, a lot of times the services or the assets that you find within your organization are not going to be, at the beginning of the talk I talked about, well, these APIs are not your father's APIs. They need to be easily consumed, well understood, and so forth. So a lot of times what you have inside your organization is not going to be what meets that definition. So you need to change those, or you need to augment those services with other types of cloud services or information to build the new API that you want to put out. And so that's where your cloud integration capability comes in from your digital platform. And then finally, as Tom says, you need to be able to manage the API as a business and see how, analyze and get insights to how you should change that business to move forward. And that's where analytics comes in from your digital business platform. So going back, concept phase, identify new or existing APIs by leveraging your enterprise API catalog. You can think of this for your enterprise as your app store of APIs, of services, things that you can use that you can eventually put out. And then you have, so typically customers have like an internal API developer portal or API store, and then they have external API stores for where their partners can come to or the different experiences. So most API platforms will allow you to create two different experiences depending on who you're logging in at, and basically that personalized experience, get them to the information and the assets they want to get to quickly. Strategy, establishing that business model. Again, you're going to want to set out your terms and conditions. You're going to want to automate and realize the business model you set out. If you're charging the developer, or if the developer is going to get a revenue share, or if you're going to have a freemium, or you want a control rate limit, all that kind of business, you want to be able to configure that and make onboarding of those partners and acceptance of those product terms very easy. And the developer portal should be able to do that for you. Additionally, you're going to have to socialize. You're going to have to market. You're going to have to brand it and provide that personalization experience as well. And that's what a developer portal allows you to do, work with your consumers, your partners in a nice, easy, personalized fashion. Architecting the solution, again, security. With APIs, with this personalization, with mobile, especially when you're dealing with personalized data, security is a must, and securing that channel becomes I think one of the most critical things that you need to do, and your digital API platform should do that for you. Should be an industry leading security platform. Build, okay, assemble from different various on-premise and cloud resources. Part of that digital platform, you should be able to do cloud integration. You should be able to say, okay, I'm going to take some information from my Nest system and merge that with some other systems in my house by connecting to other external public APIs or internal APIs and build out a new API. Through configuration, no coding approach, very simple integration, and it's great. It is. You know, REST, when you build your APIs on REST, or even when you have your web services, this integration becomes very very simple to do. You're going to want to manage your APIs from a business perspective. You're going to have business analytics about, you know, be able to see, dive into what are the products customers are really using, what, you know, when they're using this API, what data are they going after. You can really analyze that business. You're also going to have operational analytics. How is it performing? When are your peak times? And then API analytics. So there's different flavors of analytics that you need to when you think about analytics, there's different flavors, and you should cover all three flavors, from business to operational to API analytics. The operational analytics, this is an example. So when each API call comes through your digital platform, you should be able to determine, it should help you determine where bottlenecks, where issues are occurring. What you're seeing here is that this total request, from the time it came into your digital platform and the time it got back to the consumer, took 1 second and 421 milliseconds. But what we can see is the back-end service is taking quite a while, right? It's taking 1 second, 233 milliseconds. So it gives you an idea of where the bottleneck is. Is it in, you know, hopefully it's not in your digital platform, but, you know, it could be in, you know, it'll identify where you need to go look to find those issues. Now, SOA Software provides a digital business platform. We provide all of these capabilities, from API management to cloud integration to that security and to the analytics, all in one simplified platform. Okay, and with that, Tom, I'm gonna do one more slide. We are, as Chris mentioned earlier, we are a leader in delivering on APIs and personalization and SOA governance, basically that digital business platform, according to the latest Gartner MQ and the latest Forrester Wave. If you go to our website, soa.com, you can get access, complimentary access to each one of those waves, so you can read up on that. And then with that, Tom, I'm going to send it to you for some closing remarks.
Okay, great. Yeah, just to sort of reiterate where we started, you know, the power of personalization is really changing the customer experience everywhere, right? And so when you think today about how do I communicate the smartest thing at any moment in time, it's all, you know, a lot of this is just newly possible. So it's a very, very exciting opportunity for, you know, people that want to transform their business. As Chris indicated at the beginning, we're really in the same business. You know, we're all about digital transformation. The APIs are, I don't know whether it's the secret sauce, the building block. It's what you have to have to really create a new experience for your customer. And with that, you know, thank you for attending. And I guess we'll, if anybody has any questions, I don't see any down there.
I think we're having some technical difficulties, because I noticed that as well, and I can't submit a question myself.
Okay.
Yeah, hi, this is Hugh Taylor from SOA Software. Quick thing, there is a question, where can I download the slide deck? The answer is this event is being recorded, and within a few days, everyone's going to get an email with a link to the recording and the deck. So that's the answer to that question. There are a couple of questions. I'm not sure why I can see them, but other people can't. But one question is, on the John Deere case, does the farmer see only the data from his or her own farm, or do they see other farm data or aggregate data, and who makes that decision of what they can see?
The farmers control their own data. If they want to share it with other farmers, I believe they can, but the other farmers in your community are actually your competitors. In a way, they're your friends and family, but they're also your competitors. But they get to control, the farmers control their data.
Interesting. Another question, who do you work with primarily inside a business? Are your engagements driven by the business or IT side of a business?
So, Tom, do you want to, why don't we both answer it? Why don't you go first?
Yeah, I guess it ends up being both. In some instances, it is the business unit or the person in charge of innovation who we'll work with directly. And in every instance, it is if the IT side is involved, and in many instances, we're looking to leverage the capabilities and actually capacity where it exists of the IT side of the business, but also work, to push the business side of the business, if you will, get them what they want in a timely fashion. So it's almost always both.
And this is Laura, and I would, from a SO software perspective, depending on where we're coming in on the strategy, obviously because we provide a digital business platform, we work a lot with the CIOs, the enterprise architects, the mobile architects, and the technical side of the house. But we also help the technical. A lot of times, the technical side of the house brings us in to help them talk and work with the business side of the house, similar to what Tom is talking about. We kind of act kind of as a go-between between the two areas if there's, trouble communicating, or they just are kind of missing each other's messages. We try to act as an interpreter a lot of times.
Okay, so that's it for questions.
Okay. Thanks so much again for attending this call. If you have any questions that you didn't get, because my question box wasn't working, if you didn't get any questions, you couldn't submit one, feel free to All right. Thank you very much.
Likewise. Thank you so much to everybody.